Good morning. So today I am talking numbers. Business is a numbers game. What do I mean by that? Well, I have a series of questions that I want you to be thinking about, and I want to know what the answer is to these questions, right? So the first question is, do you know how much money is actually in your business bank account right now? Do you know what your break-even point is right now? Do you know what your profit level is right now? Do you know what your gross and your net profit margins are? Do you even know what profit margins even are in the first place? Do you know the most profitable service or product that you sell? And how much is that particular profitable service or product or service? How many of those most profitable products or services do you need to sell to hit your break-even point? How many leads do you need to be able to generate to make one sale in relation to your most profitable service or product? And how many leads do you have in your sales pipeline? These are all key questions that as a business owner, you should know the answer to, or you can click on a button efficiently and quickly and answer those questions. Business is a numbers game. If you don't know your numbers, your business is set to fail. Now, I may sound really brutal by making that comment, and I'm saying it for a reason, because time and time again, I am seeing that businesses do not know this information. They're making business decisions without having this information available. And why is this dangerous? Well, if you don't know how much cash is in the bank and you don't know your break-even point, well, how can you then spend on other things if you don't know what your overheads ultimately are and whether you've got enough cash in the bank to actually cover those overheads? Because ultimately, cash is king, right? If you don't know whether you're making a profit or not, and you are, for example, using your director's loan account, you are then going to be in deep trouble if you're making a loss at the end of your financial year. So you need to know whether you are making profit to be able to know whether you're protected in relation to your director's loan account. That's just one reason you need to know whether you're in profit, right? You need to know what your profit margins are, because ultimately you need to know whether the products and services that you are selling are actually profitable. Because I'm seeing time and time again with businesses that they're offering some type of service and they're actually in a situation where they're not making any money on it because their costs of sales are actually far more than what the revenue they're actually generating from this particular service or product. You need to know what that margin is, but also you need to know what your net profit margin. So in terms of terminology, your gross profit is based on the sales you generate less the cost of sales. So that is things that you are doing that is associated with that specific sale. I am not talking about your general business overheads. That gives you your gross profit. You will then take off your overheads, and that's what then gives you your net profit. If you are in a service-based industry, you should really be at least on a 50% profit margin, right? Now, depending on the industry, you may well have a high cost of sales. If you have a high cost of sales, then your net profit margin is going to be considerably lower. To get it around the 10-15% would be fantastic. If you can get it higher, even better. But if you do not have hardly any costs of sales and you really need to be looking at what your overheads are, because your net profit in those circumstances should easily be around the 50% mark, because you shouldn't have masses of overheads. Now, it does depend on obviously the specific industry that you are in. So if you want to have a conversation with me to know more about where you should be based on your specific industry, then make sure that you just put a comment. If you just put chat in the comments, and we can have a conversation about those particular numbers. But also you need to know, in terms of not just on your margins, but generally what is the areas in which of your business are the most profitable, what service is the most profitable, because I'm telling you now, you will be surprised. It isn't always what you think it is, because you need to take into account the time it takes to actually provide this product or service, the actual costing, for example, in the product if you're manufacturing it. There are lots of different things you need to take into account that actually works out if that is profitable. Now, your profit margins will help you work out what is the area that is the most profitable. The question also is how many do you need to sell of your service or product that is the most profitable to hit your break-even point? Your break-even point is, in essence, how much it costs you to open the doors for your business, your overheads. So it's nothing to do with your cost of sales. It's nothing to do with your revenue. It is purely down to what your actual overheads are, as to what you need to make in revenue each month that will then hit your break-even point, what will cover those overheads. You need to know this information, right? So you need to also then know how many of your products or services that you need to sell to be able to hit that point. But also looking not just in terms of your financials, there are other aspects within your business that you also need to know your numbers. So, for example, in relation to your leads and your sales. So, how many leads do you need to generate one sale? This will give you what your conversion rate is. When I had the law firm, my conversion rate was around the 87% mark. So basically, in terms of there is, to be fair, I've slightly confused things there actually thinking about it. So in terms of your leads, you need to be able to get a sale. How many leads? So your conversion is how many do you then actually, of those leads, do you actually convert? So it's kind of interlinked. But I had, for example, on services, it's a bit different. So for example, when I had somebody physically in front of me in the law firm, I had an 87% conversion rate. And I could pretty much guarantee that the bulk of what I didn't convert was because I turned around and said it's not worthwhile for them pursuing. Then the next bit is, how many leads do you have in your sales pipeline, right? You need to be monitoring this, because you need to know, okay, how many leads have you got, but what is the potential sales value that is associated to that, to be able to then make sure that your pipeline is enough to be able to cover not only your break-even point, so your overheads, but also so that you are making a profit. These are all key statistics and numbers that you need to be aware of. And if you're not aware of them, it is, like I say, a dangerous position for your business to be in. So how do you identify this information? So the quickest way to be able to identify whether you are in profit is by looking at your profit and loss account. Providing your account system is up to date, you should be keeping it up to date. If you don't do it yourself, get a bookkeeper, but you should be familiar with those numbers. Checking your cash in the bank, I would hope you'd be looking at your bank account on a frequent basis. But in terms of what your break-even point is, you should be able to look at your accounts and be able to see what your average overheads are per month, drilling down in your profit and loss account, and you can work that figure out relatively easily, right? In terms of what your profit margin is, that isn't as straightforward necessarily to be able to work it out. But in essence, you're taking what your cost of sales are against your revenue. That gives you your gross profit margin. You then need to take into account your overheads. This is not necessarily something I can give you a quick answer to over a live. Excuse me. Sorry, I'm suffering slightly from hay fever. But you should be able to establish what your most profitable, by looking at your gross profit margin, you'll see what is the most profitable service or product that you're offering. And then you need to be able to look at, when you've worked out your break-even point, you'll be able to work out from that in terms of what your value of your most profitable product or service is. You take that into account in relation to your break-even point and basically divide it, and you'll get how many sales that you actually need. In terms of, you need to look at, like I said, in relation to the leads. So looking at, right, I'm going to have to, unfortunately, cut the live short because I think I have somebody at the door. So as a very, very quick thing, if you want to know more about your numbers, then make sure you click the link and book in a discovery call, and we can have a chat and work out how I can best help you know your numbers and get you back in the numbers game. Thanks for listening, everyone.